with us today. She's awesome. She was a speaker at our Cambridge session last summer, talking about her company, which is called Hostel Pass, which she's going to tell you a little bit more about today. But she's also started a new business pretty recently, kind of pivoting in the time of coronavirus. So we're excited to have her talk to us about that as well. The way this is going to work, we're going to have her talk for about 15 minutes, and then we're going to have a Q&A afterwards. So it'll be about 5 minutes for questions. While you guys are listening, keep in mind what we talked about earlier. Take notes, ask questions. If you do have questions that you want Sarah to answer, you can send them anytime into the chat. You can send them to me directly if you want, or you can just send them to everyone, but I'll be moderating the Q&A at the end. So when you're listening, take notes, think about stuff that you're interested in, and if you have questions, yeah, send them to the chat, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end. Sound good? All right, I will hand it over to Sarah.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you. Hope this works. I have my little Canva presentation. Okay, so can you guys see my screen? Awesome. All right, present. Okay. It's really cool to see you all here. Like, I recognize so many of you, and it's just really, you're such a great group of people. I feel honored to be able to talk to you again. It's very nice. Thank you, Emma, for the introduction. I've rarely been introduced in my life, so that's fun. Today, I'm going to talk to you guys about how to pivot. I'm going to talk about my own journey, but I'm also going to give some examples of other businesses that have pivoted, not necessarily related to Corona, but also some that are related to Corona. And first I'll tell you a little bit about me. I'm from the States, from California, but I live in London. I studied entrepreneurship at USC in Los Angeles, and I've founded a company called Hostel Pass, and most recently a company called Work From Home Helpers, which I'll get into a little bit later. And I'm also a co-author of a publication called Female Founders Weekly, which is a newsletter that comes out every week highlighting the stories of women who are role models in business and beyond. So if you're a founder and a female, feel free to message me. I'd love to feature you in that. So first, I'd love to use the chat feature because I want to ask you guys what you think it means to pivot in business. So I'll give you about 30 seconds to send me a message, or everyone a message, just with your answer to that, and we can talk about it. I'll send a message because it took me a while to find the chat. That might help you find it. Nice. Adapting and developing, being flexible. Yeah. Yeah, and perfect. So all this stuff is really, yeah, innovation. Exactly. So pivoting essentially means reshaping and reforming to fit with the changing market. That can mean changing your whole business model, changing to an entirely new business, or adapting your business as you go along to sort of get a leg up on the competition. So when I spoke to you guys last year, I talked to you about my business Hostel Pass. And for those of you that don't know it, I'll play you this little video that I'm really proud of that we got made. And it should tell you pretty well what it is. So hopefully you can hear the music, but it's not. Okay, so that's a video I'm very proud of. But you saw at the end that it said get yours today, and obviously you can't get yours today because we're in a pandemic, and the travel industry has been hit incredibly hard. Hostels especially have basically, the market's been destroyed because they're communal spaces where people share rooms and share meals and everything like that. So that's necessitated a pivot in my personal entrepreneurial journey. I'm not giving up on Hostel Pass, but we're putting it on hold probably until next year when we can really do a big launch for when it's safe to travel again and people are doing spring break and summer trips. So it's been a really difficult journey, changing from focusing on that full time and having that be my life to basically having not focusing on it and having to think of a new way to make a living. But luckily I've been able to figure out, I've been able to figure out ways to manage. And I really want to highlight that it's not always easy. It was a really hard decision. And when you're working on something for so long, a lot of entrepreneurs call their businesses their babies. Like, it feels like this thing that you created and you've raised and you've made it something that's yours and really special, and giving up on it or even just letting it be for a while and changing it can be a really hard decision. But it's important to know that the most successful businesses have done this. They've rolled with the punches and reshaped and reformed to use their research and match the market and make sure they're always moving up with their business, regardless if that's their current business or a new idea. So I'm going to talk about 3 examples of companies that have pivoted. The first is Netflix, and this is an example of an internal pivot, which is a pivot that a company makes within their model already. So Netflix, if you guys remember, you're from the US, you'll remember it as a DVD mailing service. So it would have a huge selection, bigger than you would find at the video store, and you could request a DVD and they'd mail it to you and you could mail it back. You had its big competitor, which was Blockbuster, or just big video stores, and they weren't doing a service like this. Blockbuster tried to do it, but it was too late. And Netflix was already looking into options for streaming because they were inspired by YouTube. And now Netflix is that company that we all know and use all the time. They're valued at $203 billion because they've been adapting. And you can see that Blockbuster is bankrupt. So it's really important to be malleable in business and make sure that you're paying attention to the trends and not sticking to your original idea so that you don't have room to move and grow. Then Nintendo, a company we all know for like the Nintendo Switch and video game consoles, is a really good example of a core business pivot. Nintendo was founded in the 1880s as a playing card company in Japan, and it took them so long to become what they are today. They explored so many different avenues to make money. They did instant rice, they did taxi cabs, they even did love hotels, which are hotels you pay for by the hour. They didn't end up succeeding with any of those ideas. And it wasn't until the 1970s that they created the first video game console and have been adapting it. The Game Boy, the Wii, and now the Nintendo Switch, which we have today. And they're currently valued at $40 billion. And I love that story because when I think about how Hostel Pass has taken me 4 years to build and it's been such a long journey and all that, I just think about Nintendo and it's like, try 80 years, you know, like just be persistent, you'll get there. And they've adapted in order to do that. Now, my favorite example is Slack. Slack I would call an external pivot, and I relate to this the most because what I did was also an external pivot. Slack was started before it was Slack as a video game company called Glitch. These founders were working on making this role-playing game online. They worked really hard on it, and in doing so created a messaging platform they could use between each other to get the work done faster. So that messaging platform became Slack, and the video game company totally bombed. It was a huge failure. So Slack ended up being what the founder said, a communication platform that made the team very efficient in being unsuccessful to create the game. And I just think, like, you know what, that's such a good story, because they had a problem that they solved as like a little thing they were trying to fix while they were doing this bigger project. And now it's worth $17 billion. So now I'm going to transition a little bit to pivoting amidst COVID. COVID has been an unspeakably horrible time for so many people, and we're all having to adapt in so many ways. I'm going to focus on the business side of it. And it's been a really hard time for a lot of businesses. But there's a silver lining, because although we've been presented with thousands of problems that we've never experienced before, because none of us have had a pandemic in our lifetimes, we're also presented with an opportunity to solve 1,000 more problems. Entrepreneurs solve problems. I love that about entrepreneurs. Like, it's just been really fulfilling to see all these people coming together and creating these solutions for this horrible situation that we're in. And I think there's a lot of space for people to be innovative here, and things are just happening really quickly. So an example of this that I really like is my personal dear friends who created a company a while ago called the Enable. And the Enable allows anyone in a wheelchair, including highly paralyzed people, to create large-scale drawings it's this device you attach to the wheelchair, and you can create things, even if you're completely paralyzed. And they've created some amazing technology, and my friends who did this have really great product design skills. They've been working on it for so long, and they've really made their skills a lot sharper for having made this product. But when COVID came along, they created a new thing called the Soapstone. And the Soapstone is a reusable and portable hand sanitizer device. And their Kickstarter is coming out next week, but I'll show you a little preview of it. Hopefully this works.
I'm Pete. I'm Eli, and we're tired of ugly, wasteful, and boring ways of sanitizing your hands. So we designed Soapstone. It's a durable, refillable, and tactile way of sanitizing your hands. Press down on this button, and it dispenses hand sanitizer onto your hands.
So that's just a little preview of their Kickstarter to come. But the way that they've used their product design skills and so quickly put together this device that I definitely want to buy, and I know so many people would really use it. It even comes with a big thing of hand sanitizer you can refill it with. I just love that they're using their skills that they've learned from a business that did well but is still evolving to create something that everyone really needs right now. So now, if you want to take a few seconds in the chat to send me a message of some ways that you've seen people pivoting during COVID, I'd love to see. We'll take a little bit. I can't find my chat. Oh, here it is. Yep. Zoom calls. I think this is like a perfect example. You guys are doing your reunion on Zoom. That's a huge pivot and a way to adapt. Yeah. Yeah, bars turning into coffee shops. That's a really good one. Everything going virtual, exactly. Yeah, another thing that I've seen that I think is interesting is all of these fashion brands making masks. It's like masks but make it fashion kind of thing, or people that have products that they're launching, they're raising money by making custom masks in the meantime. So now I'm going to talk to you about my personal pivot here. So you guys know I was working on Hostel Pass. I also mentioned to you guys when I was at the Launch Gen last summer that I earned money while working on Hostel Pass by creating websites. I learned to make Squarespace websites and WordPress websites, and that's been a really good fallback for when things aren't going so well with my business. So all of those skills have really helped me in this journey. I was noticing this problem that I noticed a lot of parents having and a lot of families having, where parents are home 24/7 when you're in lockdown. Kids are also home 24/7 while you're in lockdown, and they need help with their schoolwork, but parents also need to be working. There wasn't able to be daycare or babysitting because we were in lockdown, of course, and there was a risk of spreading the disease. So I saw all of these articles like homeschooling has been hell, this isn't sustainable for working parents, all this stuff. It just kept going on and on and on. And I realized, you know, with my experience building Hostel Pass and my experience working on websites, I have the skills to do something about this. And I use it as a personal project to keep me busy also during this time. And I created this company called Work From Home Helpers, which is a platform that connects parents and guardians to skilled helpers who are out of work, nannies, tutors, people like you that are transitioning or in the summertime and just want to make some extra cash, and facilitates online babysitting or tutoring or arts and crafts or any kind of sessions through Zoom and things like this. So it's been really rewarding. We've done some trial sessions so far, and the parents are saying like it allowed them to actually get some time to themselves and to stop stressing and to get some work done. And the helpers are finding it to be a really good way to spend their time while they're transitioning between jobs. And also, it was really cute. One of the kids from the trial session said, "When do I get to see her again?" about one of the helpers. And it's just been a really rewarding thing to work on. And I wouldn't have been able to do it if I hadn't felt confident that I'd learned skills from my first business. And it's been a great time. So I just want to end on saying that this is something that my dad said to me. He was a college professor, and he would always open his classes by saying, "No one else in the world has the background, experience, and perspective that you do. Your unique contributions make the world a richer place." And I want to urge that in this time where we're all trying to solve problems, people are seeing the world differently. You have a unique experience that is helping you to solve these problems in your unique way. And the world needs you right now. Like, you guys are young, innovative people. So doing what you can to solve the issues that are presented, I know you guys have it within you. And I think that if you have an idea, run with it. And I think it'll be great. So thank you so much. I started an Instagram talking about my entrepreneurial things. It's just my name, Sarah Weingust. Feel free to follow me. You can see all the projects I've got going on there. If you want to be a helper, I urge you to do so and talk to me about it. You can go to workfromhomehelpers.com or wfhhelpers.com, or just send me an email at sarah@workfromhomehelpers.com. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Please send your questions to the chat, guys. We're going to have Sarah answer some questions, anything that you were curious about that she talked about, or maybe you might want her to talk more about something else, anything. Staff, you guys can send questions too.
I guess, Sarah, having started a business, you know, both pre-COVID and during COVID, have you found, like, other than being able to meet people in person, have you found it to be challenging in any other ways, or have things been easier in some ways because people are more available, or what's been the difference?
It's a good question. For my idea and my business, it's honestly been that, like, it's been easier because there's no pressure to do things face to face. You're able to get in front of a lot more people. The fact that I'm able to talk to you all here right now in this one place is just a testament to the fact that doing things digitally is really great. And I also found that there were grant opportunities available for people that had ideas during this time. So there's almost more funding. I mean, I'm in the UK, and the UK did some really good like business funds injections during this time, but I'm sure there's stuff like even non-national that you could find online where people are trying to help young innovators or just people with new ideas that can solve these problems. Yeah, I found it to be a really great, like, yeah, example of how things can be done digitally, which was good.
Awesome. Sean is wondering about your initial traction. How's the customer discovery process been?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I joined a lot of Facebook groups. There are a lot of like babysitter, searching for a babysitter Facebook groups, or like nanny Facebook groups, or tutor Facebook groups, and I'm just like typing that into Facebook and joining all the ones I can. But there are also a lot of groups for working parents, and I've been connecting to a lot of people that, like, there's a group that has 5,000 people now on Facebook surrounded around doing it for the kids, like working from home and trying to make a living for your family. So it's been good because there's technology there and I don't have to like actually go seek them out in person. But it's also a bit like, I think everyone's online all the time now, so there have been challenges just saying this is the thing you should focus on, because a lot of people are taking this time to sort of calm down and focus on their own little projects. Yeah, it's been good. Hope that answers your question.
It does, thank you.
Henry is wondering, how do you continue to market and promote your company post-COVID as people begin to go back to work?
So this is a really interesting one, because I think all of us probably can feel that like COVID's changing the way we do things. I think like my partner has been working from home for 5 months or something, and they say he's not going to be going back to work till January at the earliest. So I think a lot of, and he works for the government, so a lot of like private businesses aren't going to see the value in renting office space when things are working remotely. I just really think that like we're moving towards a more, it's sped up this process to us having more remote work styles. There's also a market for this when kids are on summer holidays or on vacation and they're not in a summer camp or things like that. And I also think that people are forming relationships with their helpers, like they're able to connect and want to see each other again. And this person I connected is from Colorado, and then she was connecting with someone from England, and they couldn't see each other in person. So I think there's room for that to continue to be a useful service.
Trevor is wondering, do you plan to keep both companies going in the post-COVID world, or do you think the necessity of virtual babysitting will fade afterwards?
Yeah, I want to keep them both going. So something about Work From Helpers is that I built it in like 2 weeks by myself. I made the website, and it was such a rewarding process. At first I was like, I'm gonna do this as a project, see what happens, you know. And it's really low maintenance to keep that going. So as long as people want to use it, I want to keep it there and see if that, like, it really doesn't cost me much to do that. So I'll just, as long as it's useful, I want to keep it around, I think. And then Hostel Pass, I'm not giving up on that. As soon as people travel again, we're going to start promoting it. And I really believe in that as a service. So I want to be able to offer it. And we've worked so hard. But if I had to give it up, I'm okay with that, because pivoting is important. And it's okay to move on. But I still believe in it.
Cool. One more. Callie is wondering, do you plan on expanding Work From Home Helpers to an in-person babysitting after the epidemic ends?
I don't, because there are already a lot of services that do that. So I think like our whole model is based around people being on different parts of the world and allowing them to connect. And I don't know how well it would translate. I'm not sure if this is like my business that's going to be the hit and I'm going to keep working on it forever. But it's a good thing. Like, it's kind of useful, because as long as Work From Home Helpers is a necessity, Hostel Pass isn't going to be able to be a thing. But once Hostel Pass can be a thing again, Work From Home Helpers is probably no longer much of a necessity. So I feel like I've got a good thing going on.
Awesome. Any more questions, guys? Okay. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. Awesome.
Thank you, guys. Really
Yeah,
nice.
that was so interesting. It's really it's cool to hear how you've shifted. And I know I think it's important not to downplay like how difficult that must have been for you to have to to stop doing this thing that you absolutely loved. And even just watching that video, it seems like you've come so far even from when we saw you last in Cambridge. And I mean, it made me want to go, get on a plane to, go and sit in a hostel again. So yeah, I know that must have been challenging. So I hope, everyone can definitely appreciate the challenges and the resilience that Sarah had to basically say goodbye, or at least for a little bit, to this business that she loves, but figure out what's next. And what we're going to do now is we're going to talk a little bit about how we all make that own pivot, that pivot in our own lives. Because again, I think we probably all had plans for this summer. We probably all had plans for what our fall semester is going to look like, whether that's high school or college or whatever we're doing next. And we're having to shift, but it's still really important that we're moving forward and that we're doing something. First of all, for our own sanity, I love how Sarah mentioned, I just kind of started this as a passion project, it'll be fun, see how it goes. It is really fun to build businesses, but also, at the point that many of you are at in your life, it's still important to be building your resume and connecting with people and figuring out, what is next. So actually, Emma, would you mind sharing that presentation? I just put together a couple ideas to consider. So I've been reading these articles about what the job interview process is going to look like now and post-COVID. And the one question that kept coming up that a lot of people think is going to be the number one question that interviewers ask is, how did you spend your time in quarantine? Or how did you spend, your time when you really couldn't do much else? And so this is, you have a lot of opportunities to showcase, and do different things. So I broke this down into 4 categories. You can read through it. Basically, some of you might be able to find a virtual job or virtual internship. Those are going to be challenging. You're going to have hundreds of people applying for the same thing, but definitely possible. Obviously, use your networks. See if you know anyone who might be able to offer you some sort of internship. Personal development is going to be another really big one. So what did you learn during this time? There's obviously a lot of online courses, but you can also just pick a topic and maybe read a bunch of books about it. Honestly, the way that we develop ourselves professionally and personally, people understand it's going to look a lot different during this time. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to go, take an in-person course somewhere or something like that. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the call, really try to interview people in your network. You've got a lot of people who are working from home right now who maybe have more time on their hand, maybe have less, but they're home, they're used to virtual settings, and they understand that a lot of people are struggling right now. So I just reach out to people, ask them about what they're doing. If there's any career that you've really been interested in, just make sure you pick people's brains. They will be flattered that you asked. Volunteering, there's actually quite a few options online of how to volunteer. So whether that's even just chatting with people who are in retirement homes, or there's certain ones where you can help people who are visually handicapped. And there's a lot of other ways that you might be able to use your skills. So these are just a couple of ideas here. And then passion projects. Honestly, it might be that you're really spending this time to support your family. It might mean that you're learning to cook. You might be writing a book or writing, short stories or something like that. And then also, you can be a leader in bringing friends and groups together. So just like we're all on this call together right now, maybe you could do another Launch Generation alumni group just for your session that you attended. Or maybe you could start a virtual book group for some of your friends, or an investment club or something like that. So think about how you can bring people together virtually. It's pretty simple to use Zoom, and especially with the breakout groups, you can even get pretty large groups on there. And of course, starting a small business. Sarah managed to do that in 2 weeks. Granted, you know, it might take some of us longer. She's pretty skilled at this by now, but we do have time on our hands. So, you know, start to do that market research. What are some of the problems that you see, and how could you help solve that? And then see what already exists and go from there. And remember, you can look through some of your launch generation materials, you know, to help guide you through that process of how to think about it. And now I'm gonna pass it back to Emma. I'm gonna put us back into breakout rooms. So I'm just gonna sort that while Emma talks about what topics we're gonna be discussing on this next breakout. And we've got about 10 minutes for that.
Sorry, I'm going to unmute myself there. Yeah, so we're going to do one more breakout group or breakout room session, and we're going to talk a little bit about how you guys have pivoted so far. So the main topic is, what can you be doing now this summer, especially to kind of build your resume or your leadership skills, while also balancing, of course, your mental health and your well-being. So what are some ideas that you guys might have of stuff that you could be doing in your own lives? So this is definitely a brainstorm session. I want you guys to remember what we talked about at Launch Generation. Of course, there are no bad ideas in a brainstorm. So just put anything out there that you have been considering. This is a brainstorm for all of us to get some ideas and kind of think about how we can